Oh, we made it. And here we are, and there you are. I'm so pleased to be back here in Copenhagen again. What I like about those particles that we saw in quantum land is what they do for me as a metaphor for what you now can do with your customers and prospects in the digital age. We can do things, you do things never possible before. And today here at this meeting place, I'm sure you are seeing some new things that you can do together. So, the entangled pairs of particles are a metaphor for the way in which we now come together with the customer, never letting go of one another. Well, not every company gets to the level that Lego does in doing that. And we'll be talking with you about this new trend and what it can mean to you.
So the move, Stan, from mass marketing to one-to-one marketing is about to take a quantum leap onto the next big thing, entangled marketing. Sounds strange at first, but try to say it a couple of times. Entangled marketing. Maybe one more time. Entangled marketing. So what is it all about? Well, it's basically never letting go of one another, exactly as we saw with the two particles. And when you are better than anyone else at adding value to something a person values highly, you enter into your own magical wonderland, the entangled marketing.
Yes, you know it, you hear it over and over again, revolutionary. We put the French Revolution to shame. Our revolution is so important thanks to you, thanks to what digital makes possible, thanks to what this conference makes possible. And no matter what the size of the company might be, if it's a startup, 5, 10, 20 million in revenue, 5, 10, 20 billion in revenue, there's a new marketing emerging. There's a new business model emerging that has not quite been encapsulated yet. We haven't found quite what that driving purpose is in this new business model that can affect every company of every size. Look at Threadless. I don't know if any of you are familiar with this. A company started up in the US around the turn of the century, just when things were getting started. Two men put $1,000 down and started a crazy idea. What they brought to life was the idea of selling T-shirts, believe me, T-shirts, profitably online. Only it turned out to become entangled with someone who might want to do that, they had to go beyond the product we ordinarily associate with T-shirts and go to the art community of the time. Struggling artists were not getting recognition. What if we put their work on the T-shirt? Wow. What followed? Millions of artists today, all over the world, including Europe and everywhere else. I mean, look at that work and the other work. Go to the site and you'll be amazed. It's like going to an art gallery. And not only is the artist community making this possible, but then the other community, of course, the shoppers, are voting, as you'd expect, on which of the artwork gets on the shirts. And based on their balloting, the company decides what to make. It's crowdsourcing, which became quite a thing, but there they were at the beginning, making it happen. By 2005, they were doing about 6 million in revenue. 2012, they were doing 20 or maybe 30 million. And they opened a retail store. Now they've closed the retail store. They're going through growing pains, but they continue to keep these communities, the artist community, the art lovers community, and the t-shirt and other clothing. And now they've announced greeting cards. Naturally, makes sense with the artwork as well. It's a new world where that kind of idea can take hold and do what Threadless has done. Oh, you're looking at an alarm clock. How does your cell phone become an alarm clock? Of course, there's an app and there's an attachment. And when you wake up in the morning, you wake up to the smell of bacon. How would you like? Any bacon lovers out there? Raise your hand. Bacon lovers? Hey, okay. Wow. Wake up. Bacon. Isn't that wonderful? Oscar Mayer makes this possible. And it's not just a one-time thing. This is what's so important about entanglement. Entanglement is about an enduring relationship. So Oscar Mayer has set up an institute for the advancement of bacon. Yes, believe me, there is an institute for the advancement of bacon that converts your phone into an alarm clock, that enables you to send a wonderful gift with a velvet-lined box containing bacon. And on it goes, one wild idea after another, and the relationship grows. And Oscar Mayer does very well in the US and here in Denmark as well. Ah, yes. Last Sunday, we had the marathon in New York, and many of those runners were wearing Nike shoes, of course. And also, many of those runners had been were trained by Nike with a personal trainer who enabled them to perform better. So Nike, as you know, does so much more than sell shoes. They become part of the life of that sport lover. And they become part of that life. It's worth visiting the website and seeing how much they are doing and what they have already done when it comes to wearables for fitness. It was Nike that was first 10 years ago to come up with the Fuel Band. And just think for a moment, if you can go back to the 90s of the last century, and what was possible then. And now here is a maker of athletic shoes that puts, if you're willing to buy it for $149, and millions were, that puts on your wrist the Fuel Band, so that throughout the day, that consumer of athletic shoes is looking at your logo, your famous whoosh. You are part of the life of that person. That's the new marketing. How do you become part of the life that's an extension of the product and that goes far beyond the product? Whether it's waking up to the smell of bacon, or running a marathon, or riding your Harley. We all know about Harley. We all take for granted that, Harley owners are special. The Harley Davidson motorcycle is special. It's incredible. In North Carolina, every year, 145,000 riders gather. And every 5 years, millions around the world get together to celebrate what it is to be a Harley-Davidson owner. That's marketing taken to its ultimate heights. Another favorite of mine, which I won't talk about because you know all about it, is Lego, with their movie and their hotel and everything else they do, including inviting the users, the builders of the blocks, to send in ideas and taking some of those ideas and turning them into new products. You've heard a lot, you know a lot about the crowdsourcing, about the consumer now having a say in just about everything. Where it leads is into this new kind of relationship that we're talking about here today.
So not only products, Dan,
Yes.
but I would say in entire categories are being transformed. Light bulbs, what more low involvement can it get? Yet Philips Hue, with their new light bulbs, is revolutionizing how we're looking at light. What you can do with Philips Hue through an app on your phone is to bring the beautiful colors of nature into your living room. You can control it. There's more than 16 million colors you can choose from. You can share your different mood scenes with peers. And what's interesting about this model is not the light bulb itself. Philips guarantees that this light bulb will last for 20 years. So once you have actually bought it, the likelihood of you buying a new one, at least for the same outlet, is very small. But the app, the relationship that they're creating with the consumer through this app, that's what's transforming the entire category. And I'm quite sure that Philips not only is going to control the light in our homes, but a lot of other devices. Talking about revolutionary, it's difficult not to talk about Apple Pay. Not iPay, but Apple Pay. What they have done is simply revolutionizing the way that we're going to pay. It's coming all over in taxes in the US, and even though that Walmart and Home Depot are right now saying no, I'm quite sure that at some point they're going to say yes. Making it as easy as pay is simply just pressing a button. It's going to read your fingerprint. No more swiping credit card, no more PIN codes. And most importantly of all, it was difficult for the iPhone owners to shift to Android, or maybe even Microsoft Phone. And I would actually say with this, it's going to be quite impossible for them to do. So well done, yet again, Apple. Transportation, probably all know Uber, and some of you have probably also tried it. Yesterday, I was sitting in the lobby with Stan, and it was raining. It was raining quite a lot. So I asked at the hotel, the concierge, to call for a taxi. And the response I got was that, yes, there's up to a 45 minutes wait. And I just looked at that poor guy at the concierge, said up to a 45 minutes wait, is that 32, 17, 45, an hour? And said, I don't know. What Uber has done is basically they've been providing me with an app. And once I basically press a button through geolocation, it will read where I am. It will let me know the driver's name, where he or she is, how long it's going to take for the car to be at my location, and most importantly, how other peers has rated this driver. So they're creating a relationship, a global relationship. I basically tweeted about my experience yesterday, and within 7 minutes, Uber actually responded from Hamburg saying that, stay calm, you're going to be in Copenhagen soon. And that's the relationship. It's that kind of relationship that these new brands are building between their brand and me as a consumer. And again, I'm quite sure, and I know that Uber is not only going to be about personal transportation. They're introducing moving services in the US now.
So, what do these companies that are so different, different size, different categories, what do they have in common?
Well, basically, they think way beyond the product and the transaction itself. It's about an ongoing relationship between me and the brand. And keeping the customers alive, never letting go of one another, is what's creating value, both for me and for the brands. They entangle me.
Thank you. So, what we've seen in these companies, as you step up how personal you can now be. Not just personalization, but yes, we have the big data, we have conventional research, we have your own experience with your own customers, and we throw it all together, and it becomes a personal message, a relevant message, and most important, if you want to be enduring relationship, if you're looking for entanglement that works to the benefit of both the company and the consumer or business person. Add value to the product, add value outside the product, and you're going to have a very nice bottom line as well. Apple, you know enough about Apple. A $600 billion cap on Apple. Well deserved. At the same time, let's forget Apple for a moment. Move over, Apple. Thank you. Very nice of you. How about, what if there was a B2B company that had a 600 to 1 ROI? Tell us about it, Sebastian.
We all know Vestas, and some of you have also heard about Energy Transparency, a campaign that Vestas did a couple of years back. In this context, what's interesting about it in terms of entanglement is that Vestas was thinking way beyond the turbine. They commissioned 2 different studies, one about consumer preferences for renewable energy on a global scale, and another study about how leading brands were uptaking renewable energy in their energy mix. And what they did was that they crossed these 2 data sets and pushed them out in a relevant and personalized way to 23 brands on a global scale. And in doing so, they were approaching both C-levels and VP, EVP level, creating more than 400,000 unique sites with a unique message about how Starbucks could create an even closer relationship with their customers if they actually communicated about the investment they already have made in renewable energy. Vestas found out that through that study that Starbucks customers was actually willing to pay up to 10% more for a cup of coffee if they knew that it was made out of renewable energy. They also found out that 85% of all Starbucks customers were willing to recommend the brand if they just knew about the investment that Starbucks already had made in renewable energy. So what Vestas did here was that it enlightened these brands with data and information about how they could use an investment they have already made in renewable energy to create an even closer relationship with their customers. And that, to me, is a way of thinking entangled marketing. And when you do so, what happens is that it creates a tremendous return. So this campaign so far, Vestas have received a 600 times return on their investment that they actually made in this campaign. They have not done anything else. They have never touched this market before. And this data is actually, MarketsRank did an article some time back. So quite astonishing. Summarizing here, you've seen some examples. So what is it? Well, entangled marketing is a new business model that enables companies to create an enduring and mutually rewarding relationship between the brand and the customer. So it's a business model. It's a way of thinking beyond marketing. The new way of marketing is thinking services beyond the product. It's thinking product design. It's about creating value for the customer on an ongoing basis that goes way beyond the transaction.
And marketing is the fundamental of that new business model. Oh, Moore's Law. Nothing has changed the world as much as what Moore told us would happen. Every 2 years, 18 months, who cares what it is? All we know is it keeps going faster and faster and faster, more and more power, more and more power, more and more power. But have you heard about Sess law? Sess law, you notice how close we are there. Sess law is about getting closer and closer with, he's the producer, I'm the consumer. You get it? Boom. It used to be way out here, closer, 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 closer. The distance between producer and consumer gets closer and closer in tandem with the increased computer power predicted by Moore's law. That is what is driving your marketing. That is why you can do things now that were never dreamt possible, not only 20 years ago, but 5 years ago, 2 years ago, because there's more power now than there was 2 years ago. Uh-oh, got to get closer. Got to find ways to get more entangled. Closer, 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 until it becomes a totally new relationship. Doesn't look like the old one at all because both sides are weighing in equally. Let's go back for a moment. When I was introduced, thank you for the introduction, I was referred to as one of the madmen. Yes, Rapp started at the time of the madmen, but I was the anti-madman. I was direct marketing, 10% of the economy. Do your thing, don't bother us, the madmen who control what people see on television and who are the great creative artists of marketing and business. So, for Lester Wunderman, for myself, and a few others in the direct marketing corner, we kept pounding on the door and saying, look, it's great to get brands perceiving your product as special in some way. It's great to use positioning, but there's also the chance to have a relationship. But they weren't listening. And the years passed, and they still weren't listening until we got to about 1980 and the information revolution, the revolution that preceded your digital revolution came along, IBM leading the way, and we began to have data. And soon we had what was referred to as database marketing. But by the time Tom Collins and I wrote Maxi Marketing, our book in the mid-'80s, no one had used the term one-to-one marketing. And yet that's what it was becoming. While so much was changing, there also was a lot that was not changing. And if we can go back just even where we were, what was not changing is non-advertising. Have you heard the word non-advertising before? No, I don't think you have. But how would you describe, whether it's a print media advertisement or even a piece, or your latest television commercial, that didn't select its target audience in the first look at an ad, the first few seconds of a commercial, didn't say who this was for, so you got the attention of that person you really are doing this for. What if in print media, the body copy was illegible, couldn't read it, squinty-eyed, tiny type, often on a reverse background that looked great to the art director on a computer screen, but put it on a page and you couldn't read it, and no call to action, no reference to where the action really takes place on the computer, or even with a phone call. Well, my name for this is non-advertising. And guess what? It hasn't gone away. I am astonished to open magazines today in the US, of course not in Denmark, but in the US. And here's Ford. Oh my goodness, let's see, where's the headline? Who is this car for? Blah, 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 across the top, which I can barely read. Oh, Sebastian, there it is. Yes, in the lower right corner, we finally find the headline. You know, when I bought the magazine, I really wasn't interested in that news story about the new economy and what was going to happen with the Republicans in control in the U.S. now. What I wanted was to read the ads. I mean, that's what I couldn't wait to do. Joke, you got it, okay, right. And so I finally got to the Ford ad. And there it is in the lower right-hand corner. I found it. When your arms are full, your foot can lend a hand. When your arms are full, your foot can lend a hand. Let me process that now. Yeah, maybe. And they don't even have any copy. And in the U.S., probably here too, 80% of potential car buyers, what is the first thing they do? Of course, they go online to see what's out there. Anybody for an automobile business out there? Oh, no, the automotive people aren't here. Of course they're not. They know everything. They don't have to go to seminars and conferences. Okay, let's look at something and another one. Oh, I love this one. Samsung, great company, do a lot of terrific things in marketing, but not in their advertising and print media, because the headline is final score 2-1. Does that say anything to me? What if it said there's a better vacuum than you've ever had a chance to use in your life? Not a great headline, but at least it tells me if I'm looking to buy a vacuum that this is for me. That's what I mean by, selecting your prospect. But if for some reason I wanted to know what final score 2-1 means, believe me, if you can't read that copy up there, you can't read it in the magazine either. What's the point of having a copywriter you're paying in the US $100,000 a year or more write copy that you can't read? This is madness. This is the mad men living on. And it's got to stop, because it's robbing you of dollars. It's robbing, if you're representing a company here today, of doing what you can do with digital on a scale that will make you stand out and differentiate your offer and your product. Thought I'd show you a B2B ad as well. Just same thing. Here's the mighty IBM. Can you risk less by reinventing more? Another real puzzler of a headline. Totally impossible to read anything. And no call to action, no invitation to click here, go there, online, and find out what this can do for you, or what today's best offer is. And where on TV do you see, and how many commercials do you see that connect? There's a great disconnect out there between those folks who aren't here today at the so-called creative agency. I say so-called advisedly, because they're not creating anything in many cases. They do some great work, and yes, brands can still be created with great advertising, but at least half of the advertising out there is non-advertising, still.
So think different. That's end the madman era, as Stan is saying here. Think winning with a quantum mindset. And what is that? That's way beyond the product. You have to think as the relationship with the consumer goes way beyond the transaction itself. Think value added. How can you actually provide value to the customer outside the product? As we just saw with Philips, as we're seeing with Uber, etc. Not all of your customer should you engage with. Select the ones that you believe that could turn into an ROI, and then deeply entangle with them. Technology will change and keep changing. So you have to rethink your models. Whatever you do today, at least in 18 months, you have to do it differently. have to think better than anyone else at doing what matters. So what we just saw up here before, is that really matters? I don't know, not to me at least. But when you're thinking of a brand and your brand, or as an agency, identify what really, really matters to the end audience and just do it better. Keep customers alive. There's nothing new in that. The new thing here is actually that most customers, they have an entangled mindset. They would like to be entangled, way beyond the transaction. But for some, if you think Apple at least, forever. And then what's all about, obviously, is I think entangled marketing supremacy.
Take the technology you have and think big, and you're going to win big. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking us back to school. I think this is still necessary. I mean, I'm sorry for calling you a madman because you're definitely a rebel, I understand. But being around since '65, what has surprised you the most in all these years when you look back?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, the other day I was walking, actually last week, 'cause I've been here for several days. I was walking down Fifth Avenue in New York, and I suddenly realized half of the people were walking with this and looking at it. Half of the people. This computer, it's not a phone. This computer, 65, we didn't even know from computers. And we got to know them in the 80s. It was the nerds who knew them. And then the 90s, some of you folks started coming along. And then we had the boom at the beginning and the bust. And remember, with the bust, it was supposed to be all over. Well, you know the rest. So my answer is the computer in the palm of your hand.
And are you going to stick around if people want to chat with you a little bit during the break?
Oh, I'd be happy to talk with anyone out there. I'm learning a lot.
Perfect.
Being here in Copenhagen.
Thank you so much for coming here, and thank you to Sebastian as well.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.